Welcome to Pop Monster, a podcast to feed all your pop culture cravings. My name is Sarah, a self-confessed superfan. This show will cover everything from reality TV chaos, nostalgic deep dives, and the latest in music, TV, movies, and books. So let's get into it. I cannot believe that the end is here. But the sun is shining and summer is coming, and it's a really good thing that I don't like to go outside. Because in a few short weeks, both Love Island UK and USA will be starting. And I would like to cover both of them in some capacity on the podcast. I'm currently just trying to work out the logistics. So that's helping me feel not too mournful about the end of season 13 of MAFS Australia. Because I'm still being fed and reading up on all of the after show gossip. And I've started a rewatch of the earlier seasons, which includes a first-time watch of season 4 and 5 for me. Besides all of my reality TV binging, I'm trying to get in a lot more positive of a headspace. No more excuses. I am getting back to working on my mental and physical health. I've done a real deep dive into the work of Mel Robbins and have recently read her books, Let Them and The 5-Second Rule. And I've seen some skepticism on her online, and she might very well be a fraud. I'm not buying everything that she says about her life. But I'll take anything right now that is giving me any motivation. It is so easy to get into a negative mindset and feel sorry for yourself, and that can manifest as an action. And I'm saying this as a real lazy bitch who outside of my full-time job is watching a stupid amount of reality TV. It brings me joy. But we have to look at the positives. I was feeling so low last Sunday. Then my neighbour and their little girl came over to give us a box of chocolates because it was her birthday. It's just so sweet. There are so many good people in this world, so we can't give up on ourselves. There are so many things to be grateful for and ways that we can make things better for ourselves and those around us. Okay, sorry, that was cheesy, and I will be looking a lot more closely at my Prozac dosage. But in the meantime, let's get into our final week of season 13 of Married at First Sight Australia. Okay, well, let's get started with the final vows. So we start this episode with all of the couples in their apartments reflecting on the exit of Gia and Scott. And Beck, man, this woman is wasted on MAFS. Get her on Traders now. I was naively confused by her helping Gia so much at the dinner party, but it's all much clearer now. She is the mastermind. She's galaxy-brained. This was all part of her bigger mission to bring about Gia's demise. She got her to show up and is proud that she could orchestrate the final demolition of that relationship. I can't even be mad. This woman has read The Art of War. And she didn't come here to make friends. It's diabolical. The other main headline from the dinner party was the shit show that is Alyssa and David. And I think if we all came together as a society and took a global census, everyone would be on the same page. All of these couples could even agree that David didn't deserve any of that and that he's a great guy. Sorry, Alyssa, nobody was buying your wounded deer act. So they're both waking up in separate apartments, and while I wish David had held back a little bit and kept some of his dignity, at least he's happy knowing that he really laid all of his cards out on the table and fought for their relationship. But he just seems so defeated. Alyssa gave him nothing, and I feel like she's been playing him for a while now. When we see her, she's basically doing cartwheels. It must be so liberating to have zero conscience or remorse. I'm almost envious. If I had the audacity of this woman, then I'd definitely have fewer wrinkles and definitely wouldn't have IBS. I genuinely think that all of her tight, high ponytails are restricting blood flow to her brain. Why does she keep saying that she's never taken her ring off? I need an update from the people of Adelaide. Have they taken down her airport poster? If so, I hope they held an event for this, like when they tear down a statue of some old racist. An airport is one of my favourite places on earth. They're sacred to me. So seeing Alyssa is worse than when I was recently in the San Francisco airport and it had all these adverts for AI companies. Anyway, despite what I think of everyone in this cast, I'm happy that they can finally be free from these apartments. That pressure cooker environment was definitely melting some brains and contributing to some questionable decisions. Now they can all escape the bubble, go back separately to their hometowns and reflect for a week before final vows. And they're all taking this fairly well, apart from Rachel, who instantly gets separation anxiety and cries like he's going off to war. Moving on. Okay, seeing David's home in Brisbane and his producer mixing board thing reminded me that he was a rapper. To his credit, he really has been pushing that a lot, or trying to get more exposure for his music. He barely talks about it, and I respect that. And I really like his apartment. It's very masculine with a lot of dark woods. It reminds me of the little sexy bachelor pad showroom that they have in IKEA. We then cut to Alyssa in Adelaide, and God, she's really trying to milk this poor me angle. She's on the sofa, contemplating with a messy bun, a cup of tea, and a blanket over her legs. It looks like one of those US antidepressant adverts. We then fast forward to their final vows. Now, David is one of the hottest men I've ever seen on MAFS, but when he's walking in with his white suit on, oof, it's rough. It looks like he borrowed it from Steven. It is tight. His muscles are ready to pop out like the Hulk, and the trousers are rolled up to cut off before the ankle. This was a mistake, but that is my only critique because all of his other actions were stunning. Chef's kiss. You know, watching this show is a pleasure, but it's also a commitment, and so it's lovely to get some payback for the hours upon hours of episodes we watch every year. Watching their final vows was cathartic, and is why I come back every season for more. So we see Alyssa walk in, high on her own supply, and she cannot repress her glee at being able to have her phoenix rising moment and to break his heart. She's even taking credit for his white suit, and I should have known that she was responsible for that awful fit. So we all know that one of the prerequisites for being a reality TV producer is being morally corrupt. But I will give them a standing ovation for letting David go first. He gets to speak, and after 10 weeks can finally have a voice in this relationship. He says that he can't be the man who fights to be heard and has to prove his worth to someone who is still deciding if he's enough. The man is done listening, and like Selena Gomez before him, he has to lose you to love me. Once he says his vows, he's gone girl, and bravo David. You robbed her of the one thing that she wants most. Attention. This little brat really hated losing her moment to shine. Now she knows how David felt. It's not nice when someone won't listen to you. She even tries to give her speech when he's already out of the building. And again, bless the editors who kept cutting away from her so she can't get her uninterrupted screen time. Bye, bitch. Alright, let's move over to Rachel and Steven, and I love that we got to see some of the houses that weren't shown on Homestays Week. In Rachel's place, I was just stalking her bookshelves. I really think that we might have a lot in common. She has books on Dolly Parton and BTS. Also, have all of these people been raiding the MAFS stationery cupboard? Every single one of them is writing in their journal using the same pen. That's one of those ones where you can click it and change the colour. Hearing these two talk about their relationship, I really need to get some background on Steven's past relationships and to see any women he has been with in the past, because he acts so juvenile when it comes to romantic relationships for a man in his 30s. He just makes so many excuses. He's constantly stressing his inability to be able to meet her expectations or the needs required for this kind of partnership. Yeah, he's just not striking me as a man ready for marriage at this stage in his life. Anyway, Rachel looks so stunning in her dress at the final vows, and their location seems a lot less haunted than Alyssa and David's. I will say her vows are really lovely. I could have done without being reminded of him refusing to kiss her. That still haunts me. I'm still traumatized from that, but what's nicer than someone choosing you unequivocally? They have a little kiss, and I know I'm delusional, but I don't care. I find them so adorable. In his vows, he shares that he likes her challenging him and has never had someone ask more of him before. These two have done a lot of healing from their past traumas. There's still a lot more work to do, but she's shown him that he's not unlovable. He chooses her too, is falling for her, and even quotes a Taylor Swift lyric. They are leaving this experiment together and get their fairy tale ending, at least for this episode. We'll get back to them in a bit. Now, it's clear what the editors are doing. They have to walk a fine line and alternate between happy couples and car crashes. With that being said, over to the demolition of Beck and Danny. Maybe I'm becoming too parasocial with these people, but it was so rough to watch this. She is clinging onto this man like he's that door from the Titanic, and he is, in his words, ready to Usain Bolt out of there. Joking that he's got a business meeting with someone with big tits. Ugh, he makes me sick. Once they're home, I'm bitterly reminded of how envious I am of Beck's beautiful home with the tiny mortgage. It just looks so cozy. I want to curl up in that book nook and read under that giant Pixar light. When we cut to Danny, we see him in the pub, and have we ever seen his home? My conspiracy theory is that he lives in a studio apartment sharing bunk beds with his Magic Mike lookalike stripper friend. Jumping to the final vows, of course, Beck once again looks stunning. That demon is my style icon of the season. And I love the location they got. It's really reminded me of the forest from Twilight. Hold on tight, Spider Monkey. So we have Beck going first, and she reminisces on how her first impression of him was that he was a fuckboy. And sometimes, ladies, we have to trust what our gut is telling us. She now thinks that he's her safe space, her best friend, and he lights up a room. Something we normally only ever hear about victims on true crime documentaries. Her final decision is that she chooses him and loves him. All this monster can give her back is awe and thank you. Bad man. This fucker's speech is talking about how they've gone from strength to strength and beaten every obstacle they faced. Then he takes a turn and I hate this man. He's dragged her here and he couldn't even say that he's not into her. He has to make everything her fault. He's calling out how she wasn't as respectful as him when meeting the alternate matches, ridiculed his ugly ass shirt, and even name-dropped Gia. I'm not Beck's biggest fan, but this man is really sticking the knife in. You do not need to tell her that you felt a weight off your shoulders in your week apart and that she is your friend's soulmate, but not your loved one. Horrible. And now she's dumped. This felt like a humiliation ritual, and I just know that I'm going to have to see this man on future reality dating shows, and I don't want to. I can't stand the sight of him. He really shows his true colours when he's talking to the producer about how it was brutal because she acted like a lady, and he would have rather she abused him or twatted him one. I mean, I don't condone violence, but I would have loved to see that. There is something so cold and calculating about him. He doesn't care how Beck is feeling, or even try to check in on her. He's just annoyed that he couldn't be portrayed as the good guy in this breakup. Alright, so we have to end things on a high point, and the editors aren't even trying to pretend that there's any suspense about what will happen with Stella and Philip. They're the saving grace of the season for anyone who cares about people finding love. Unfortunately, I don't care about that, but I'm happy for y'all. We see them rewatch their wedding, it was very lovey-dovey, and sadly we didn't get the edit featuring her unhinged friends. Once we get to their final vows, the location is beautiful, just stunning, although it also looks like a helicopter landing pad, like an ER or Grey's Anatomy when they're waiting for the chopper to come in with the donor kidney they need. I don't even know what to say about these two. A lot of the times on television, when people are happy and in love, I find that painfully boring, unless they have particularly dynamic personalities. But to be fair to Stella and Philip, they're just such a good, healthy, normal couple that they don't belong on reality TV. I mean that as a compliment. It's actually amazing when against all odds this experiment actually works, and I was quite sleep deprived, so I almost cried when he got down on one knee and proposed with that gifted ring. From that high, we pretty swiftly come crashing back down to earth once we open on our first part of the reunion, and we have a dinner party to attend. We open with a dejected Rachel telling us that her and Stephen have broken up. We just left final vows with two successful couples, and now we've immediately cut that in half. So when I'm watching this show, despite my obsession, I never watch it live on E4 and always stream it on Catch Up. And this is essential for episodes like this one because without adverts, it is a 1 hour and 20-minute episode, and thank God I could fast forward through the 10 million recaps that were included. This episode could have easily been cut in half. I would estimate that there was probably about 40 minutes of new content here. I get that the recaps are good for the casuals, but I don't need to see the Stella and Philip proposal scene for the millionth time. Anyway, it's been a month since everyone was all together, and Stella and Philip are excited to catch up because they're pretty unproblematic and are currently on cloud 9. Now, I've been pretty negative on these two, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy for them, but I'm usually not this opposed to the happy low drama couples on the show. I like watching them if they at least have some personality or are entertaining in any way. I just find them together to be a bit of a snooze. Over to a less joyous pairing, Rachel and Stephen. She's in hysterics because he dumped her, and we all sadly saw this coming with this cowardly man-child. Although I will give it to him, we have seen some growth, and even see him tie his own shoelaces when getting ready for the party. Slow clap for Stephen. No help from mummy today. Rachel shares that he's not ready for a relationship, and she says that she was in love with him 2 weeks into the experiment but kept it to herself. Really? They hadn't even kissed at that stage. Yeah, I don't think that Rachel is ready for a relationship either. I think she might have some attachment issues to work through. Then we have Alyssa and David, and the distance from this experiment has not helped Alyssa to regain any perspective. She still thinks that she is some kind of victim and is expecting an apology from David for disrespecting her and not listening to her final vows. I loved that David had zero remorse or regrets and is very happy with how he left the situation. And he has definitely gained some self-respect. I'm at least happy to see that Gia and Scott are over the car crash of their relationship and ready to move past it. And I'm very excited to see more of the other couples we haven't seen in a while. Although when we see Luke again, I get why Mel was so icked out by him. He seems very nice, but he's dull and lounging around eating a giant bag of crisps. It reminds me of 4 from Avengers when he's really depressed and just slobbing out with the pizza and beer. I guess Mel is his Thanos. Our big shock reveal is that Steph has been in contact with another groom, and I love when they flash through all of the potential suspects like it was Knives Out. They even included Steve. Like, come on now. We soon learn that it's Danny, and Beck is wearing leopard print and ready to mold their faces off. So she read these texts on Stephanie's phone, and I think that they were both putting out feelers, to be honest. She's sending a bikini pic, he's sending love hearts. Honestly, I find them both gross, and I don't really care if they wanted to start up something. But it does seem sketchy when apparently Beck and Steph were so friendly. I had no idea that they were close when watching the season. So this centaur man doesn't want things to get ugly between them tonight because, in his words, he's just too goddamn pretty. Yeah, I don't see the appeal, but Steph thought that Tyson was hot, so she's a lost cause. First into the cocktail party are Beck and Alyssa, both of course riding solo, and it seems like they've definitely recovered from their fallout. Beck reveals that Danny told her on her birthday that he was waiting until final vows to say I love you to her. Then instead, he ended up dumping her. Okay, I'm choosing to believe Beck's side of things here because I find Danny very sketchy. Throughout all of Beck's ugly crying, all I could focus on was the back of Alyssa's head. Her hair and extensions were a mess. Once your glam squad turns on you, that's game over. We then see Rachel walking in and she knows that red is her colour, she looks stunning, but she is not even pretending to hold things together at all. She's immediately crying when she enters the room. Usually the producers make Stella and Philip be the first to enter so that they can set a positive tone for the evening. Although it might have been too cruel to let all those depressed singles be confronted by their joy. These 3 women are ready to start a jilted women's support club. So next they send in Luke and Rebecca to cheer them up, and I felt like Beck was trying to flirt with Luke a little bit. Yeah, that's not a match. I don't think he could handle her. I picture him with a very meek, softly spoken woman who is mainly silent. Then, like a lamb to the slaughter, David enters, and Alyssa has already started to try to poison the well against him. Woman, he didn't listen to your one speech. You didn't listen to him for 3 months. And she is really trying to put on a show for sympathy. She can't even handle greeting him with a hug. They do step away for a private chat, and I feel like I've seen the true face of evil when I looked at Alyssa throughout this conversation. Now, David isn't perfect. I am disappointed that he is wearing a shirt, but I'm finding him so sexy now that he's gained a backbone and is taking none of her shit. He couldn't care less about Alyssa. She's getting no apology, and I'm proud of him. She's toxic, and he's moved on. Anyway, everyone is so happy when Stella and Philip announce their engagement, and Beck has learned from her feud with Gia. She starts to gather troops for her new war against Steph. When they finally meet face to face, it's like they're looking in a mirror. They both have identical hairstyles and look kind of similar, which I hadn't noticed before. It at least initially seems like they have diffused the situation pretty quickly, but that won't last for long. We then see a carousel of the early Exeters show up, and did it take anyone else quite a few minutes to recognise Juliet? She looked wildly different with the styling. She's come in looking like Agatha Harkness from One Division. When Stephen finally arrives, I respect Rachel for being worried about him and jumping straight up to greet him, but I'm baffled by this whole situation. There is so much confusion and hurt about this breakup. Rachel asks if he wants to have a go at repairing things, and he puts his ring back on. I still don't know what's happening, but okay, we'll see. Next up is Gia and Scott arriving separately, and when they greet each other, it is awkward and cold, but at least pretty cordial. And I need to know where she's buying all of these Life of a Showgirl dresses from. It must be a costume shop for dancers. Now, in this series, we have seen many people that are full of shit. But Danny really takes the cake. When we see him in the car on his way to the party, he says that he's not nervous because he's from East London and has walked in rooms where he wasn't sure if he'd make it out alive. This dork. Nobody is buying your hard man act. You work in high-end real estate and are bopping around town with male strippers. I lived in East London for a decade, and he probably lived in a lot nicer places than I did. I think even if he went toe-to-toe with the cast of EastEnders, he would be one of the softest and get the shit kicked out of him. Even Ian Beale could beat him up. He was really pissing me off with how smug he was acting in this episode. Sir, you are not God's gift to women. When he enters, him and Beck keep it pretty polite, but once he's sat down at the table, the gloves are off, and she starts making digs about his messaging with Steph. Yeah, they've got beef. It's worth noting that Brooke and Chris are both missing and chose not to attend any of the reunions. To be honest, I didn't notice until 3/4 of the way for this episode. It's felt like a lifetime since I last saw them. From what I've read online, things are pretty dark with them. Brooke accused him of stealing her antidepressants during the experiment, and she's now pregnant with her Lego-headed ex. Oh, also sidebar, I am currently watching Season 4 of MAFS Australia as part of a full rewatch, and we actually get a much better look at the food in these earlier seasons. I think I might be the only person who actually cares about this, and need to stop watching this show before dinner. Alright, so we kick off the dinner with Daddy Philip getting everyone started with a speech. And then Tyson is desperately thirsty for screen time, so tries to act as a defender for Alyssa and confronts David for walking off during their final vows. I don't think it probably took that much prodding for Tyson to go at David, as, let's just be honest here, he's a full-time bigot. But seeing David just laugh him off, it's like looking at a different man. Him and Scott seem so happy, and it's good to see some light at the end of this tunnel. He just shuts down Tyson and Alyssa with ease, including dropping the bomb about her getting another man's number on the flight home. Also, I am delighted to see my man Joel back. He is at peak silliness throughout this evening. He's having a good time. Okay, over to Beck and Danny, and they have a chance for a little private chat about everything. It took 10 weeks too long, but I'm glad that Beck at least has finally realised that this man was playing her so that he could stay until final vows. She even says that she cooked, cleaned, and paid for everything. Yeah, he's such a scrub. I knew it was a whole act when he was pretending that he needs to be the alpha male provider. Who do you reckon spent more on their partner, Scott or Beck? And I mean, at least Gia was cooking and cleaning from what she told us. Anyway, this dweeb just won't take any accountability and keeps pointing to the alternate match dinner as when things fell apart. Although I am interested in whether the texts he mentioned between Beck and Luke were flirty. Yeah, I still can't see it. Her and Joel, though. I think they definitely have chemistry. But Danny does start to realise that he's lost the sympathy foe and that Beck has definitely won the breakup in terms of the optics. I agree with Gia that Danny is a snake. Also, I was so surprised at how little screen time she got. I was almost impressed with her keeping it civil for one evening and not trying to make a scene for attention. But, oh no, in the last 10 minutes of the episode, she has to fill Tyson in on the blossoming Steph and Danny flirtation. Gia will forever be a mess. So Tyson decides to address Steph on this in front of the whole table, and how dare these editors? Danny says that he sends his mum love hearts, and asks if that means he's trying to fuck her. Then the camera cuts to Joel. That man has been through enough. Let him cuddle with his teddy and mum in peace. The audacity. I will say that Danny gets off pretty lightly as Beck is directing most of her rage at Steph and going nuclear about how she's her friend and was bashing Danny with her, only to then go around and message him. Then she calls them scurvy sea cunts. I'm learning new insults every day with this show. Everyone still has PTSD from Beck's last outburst at a dinner party, so everyone is triggered and horrified by her ranting, and Beck immediately loses any goodwill she had with the group. This angers me so much because she, like Gia, is her own worst enemy, and I cannot watch Danny get on his high horse and say that she's not wife material whenever she acts unhinged. I need Beck to get it together and move on from this loser. We close this episode with her running off crying and Danny saying that he's not going to show up for the second part of the reunion. Well, if there's two things we know about Danny, one is that he is a self-proclaimed man of his word, so if he says he's not going to show up, then he'll bail. Two is that he just can't handle any heat and will run scared when confronted, despite acting like he's one of the Cray twins. So we enter part 2 of the reunion with all of the participants minus Danny, Juliet, Brooke and Chris coming face to face with the experts one last time. Apparently there was some screamy match between Joel and Juliet at the dinner party that made it to the cutting room floor, which might explain why she hasn't showed up today, but I didn't miss her not being here. I love how Mel and Luke have now successfully graduated from Alessandra's special class for her most challenging students. I truly found it adorable how Mel is still taking some pride in their small wins. Like when John said that some coupled reconnected at last night's dinner party in a fairly civil way, Mel instantly pats them on the back. It was cute. The bar is still in hell for those two knuckleheads. Then we learn that congratulations are in order for Chris, who is a new father with his daughter being born. And I'm very happy for him. Regardless of how he acts in romantic relationships, I think he'll be a fantastic dad. Our first couple on the couch are Rachel and Steven, and everyone is confused by their current situation, including my meme king Grayson. So good to have him back. Alright, with Steven, I just don't understand what his motivation is. Is he doing all of this to keep Rachel and his family happy? Because it really seems like this guy doesn't actually want a relationship. He wants to be single Steve-O and be horny with his fish. I predict a Shape of Water romance in his future. I can't believe how long he's dragged on with this bullshit about him not being able to be the man that she needs, at least until next winter. As Mel tells them, a relationship cannot be seasonal, although if I had to pick a season for love, it would be winter. I watch way too many of those cheesy Hallmark Christmas movies where Santa ends up being some creepy local old man in disguise. Anyway, it's clear that she's doing all of the heavy lifting and this guy won't even prioritize them. He makes so many excuses. If this man actually loves her and wants this to work, the situation is pretty simple. Put in some effort and give things an actual go. If you're not willing to do that, then cut things off and stop doing all of this back and forth with Rachel. You're wasting her time at this point. And that's unleashing the full force of John. He's been promoted from principal to superintendent. He is cutting through all of this guy's bullshit and cop-outs. He says that Steven doesn't want to be with Rachel, he doesn't want to change his life, and is trying to wiggle his way out of the relationship. Bravo, John. One day when he's dropping bombs like this, I hope all of the couple stand up to give him a standing ovation. It's deserved. So John has given it to him straight and wants a simple yes-no answer from Steven. Does he want to be with Rachel? And this cowardly worm says that a big part of him does. Just be direct, Steven. You're making Chris give himself a facepalm because of all your waffling. He says that he's scared to answer the question. I wanted to shake him, and everyone is heckling and telling him to own it. Finally, he says no, and I've always had a soft spot for Steven, but fuck this guy. He's known this for weeks and weeks. What a time waster, and Rachel was in no way ready to be in this experiment. She is so emotional and quite fragile, and I can see why that may have made Steven hold back from the truth, but this was cruel, and things should have been cut off way earlier. At least from what I've seen of him post-show, he can actually make a commitment. But sadly, that is to a MAFS rock band with Joel and his dildo drums. Okay, next up is Gia and Scott. We get to hear him elaborate a bit more about what got him to his breaking point with all of Gia's lies. We are then treated to a very long highlight reel of their relationship, and I'm sorry, but it was comical when they showed back to back how many times Gia has walked off and threatened to leave this experiment. Oh, she's so full of shit. But she knows how to play this game. She is actually contrite, apologizes to Scott for all of her behaviour, and acknowledges that she needs to work on herself. Bizarrely compared to all of the mess going on with Alyssa and David and Beck and Danny, these two are actually being the most evolved, and we have some actual resolution. Now, this has soured a little bit when I read all about what happened with them post-show. I love finally being able to Google everyone, but she is now in a relationship with Alan Wallace. Sorry, I'm saying that like we should know who Alan Wallace is, but he's some guy from Love Triangle Australia who she was apparently in contact with before things ended with Scott. And now he's suddenly the love of her life and they've got matching tattoos. Okay, I now see the vision and the pieces are falling into place. It makes sense why she was so checked out for the past couple of weeks. She'd already lined up her next man. So I don't know why she was bullshitting here about still being in love with Scott. At least Scott has also moved on now with some woman he knew before the show, who looks a lot like his friend Paige. I don't really care about either of their post-show relationships, but I do love that Scott is still very close with David, although I could do with less of their cringy social media posts with that douchebag Elliot from last season of MAFS. Alright, moving on, and I'm so annoyed that they call Tyson and Steph up to the couch. We need to stop giving him a platform and the attention he is clearly so desperate for. Having to watch a montage of all of the hate speech he has spewed throughout the show. I'm with Beck when she said "ay caramba." I just can't even give him the time of day. My highlight was Mel erupting on him for speaking over and being so disrespectful to Alessandra. I love you, Queen Mel. And I also really appreciate Grayson for constantly chipping in and calling out his behaviour several times throughout this. Tyson has zero respect for women, and I hope the season has served as a public service announcement for all of the women in Australia to avoid this fuckhead like the plague. So, on that negative, misogynistic note, let's now watch some scenes of the women-on-women hate that persisted throughout the show. Beck is on an apology tour again and vows to stop treating women like that, although Mel rightfully calls out that she practiced the same behaviour just the night before with Steph. Alyssa then starts spouting out on how she became a shell of a person and everyone needs to be kind and not tear other people down. Now, the way that she was treated by Gia, Beck and Brooke was disgraceful, but Alyssa needs to take her own advice too. Just saying. Gia tries to throw the blame on Beck, but does eventually apologise to Alyssa, and I just can't listen to any more excuses from these women for their mean girl behaviour. Next. So Beck is up on the sofa on her own, and Danny didn't even tell her he was going to be a no-show. Then we have to watch a trip down memory lane of every time that Danny has humiliated this woman, and also got treated to some unseen clips like him saying that all bitches love him. Jesus. And his final interview when he's all giggles and saying that women will now be queuing up for him and throwing their pantyhose at him. Okay, another public safety announcement. Women of Australia, stay away from this centaur. Yeah, this is why he decided to skip part 2 of the reunion. At least Beck can now see his true character, that this relationship was a toxic mess and that he was just not that into her, although I do worry that she would be open to giving him another chance. She does at least admit that she does believe that Danny did tell Gia that she was more his type. And I still stand by him saying that. Okay, let's end on a high note with Stella and Philip, and once again, I have nothing to say. They found their love story, they're happier than ever, and Philip has moved to Sydney. I wish them well. We then close the episode with a memorial and flashbacks from Mel's time on the show, and I was not prepared for this. I was just full-blown sobbing. What an incredible woman. Fuck cancer. Jesus, I need a second. But I do need to move on to covering the After the Experiment episode. And I've been a complete idiot and have missed all of the After the Dinner Party episodes, which I will be quickly remedying. Okay, let's get into it. And Gia has pulled a Danny and dropped out at the last minute. Boo! So Chris has to have a sit down without her, and it seems like they're still friends, and he tries to provide a cover story for her. He says that her daughter came down with a cold, but there are rumblings that Gia's boyfriend didn't want them there. So, like a lamb to the slaughter, Chris is confronted on his TikTok live from the night before with Gia and her friend Will. So I looked up the details of this, and it is pretty brutal. Especially from Will going in on one of Scott's brothers having 3 kids with 2 different mums and a bunch of other bullshit. Yeah, I shouldn't be surprised at the messiness from this cast extending beyond the season, although I would like to see Scott's apparently hot brother with the missing teeth. It does sound like Chris wasn't an active participant in the trashing, but he was giggling right alongside them, so he's guilty by association. Later, we do see him say that he sent a text apologising to Scott, but this man has turned into Dom Toretto, and nobody messes with his family. Next we see Beck show up with her girl gang of allies, Rachel, Alyssa, Rebecca, and Joe. And she slags Gia off for making them all wait for her to show up, and then not telling anyone she wasn't coming. Yeah, I'm with Beck, this is some bullshit. The one thing I will give Beck is that she always shows up no matter what, to throw out apologies and excuses for calling people rat cunts, but regardless, she's there, and Gia is clearly being a coward and too scared to be confronted by all of the Beck squad on the show. Well, apart from Chris and Rebecca, who's declared a fence sitter, because she has a soft spot for Gia. I'll admit that I used to have a soft spot for her because she's such a mess, But now I only have room in my heart for her lovely mum with the glasses. I was surprised to see Beck and Alyssa so united, and apparently they've become friends, as Beck was one of the only people checking in on her every day when she was going through a rough time. Sure, I just can't with Alyssa. Has anyone seen all of the pictures of her now dating some guy from Australian Ninja Warrior, and that they moved in with each other? People are really bouncing back quick from these relationships. One of my guilty pleasures in life is the Ninja Warrior franchise. I don't really care for all of the emotional sob stories, I just like to see people fall. I live quite near a ninja gym and really want to try it out, but it might just be for children. Anyway, I don't care for this squad, and I love Joel, but he would show up to the opening of an envelope. Next out is Ska, and he talks about how he and David have separated themselves from the rest of the group, as they don't want to get caught up in all of the drama, which earns him an eye roll from Beck. And one from me, to be fair. He's on a bit of a high horse. One question I have is if David hooked up with his alternative match. I need to know. Anyway, Beck has an issue with Scott's holier-than-thou attitude when his mates, David and Danny, are mocking their exes online. To David, I say, do what brings you joy. And Scott says that Beck was laughing along with all of Danny's posts. Will this woman never learn? Against my will, I've seen so many of his gross TikToks with his Magic Mike friend, and like me, Beck needs to mark those posts as irrelevant. I still can't believe that she got hired to write an advice column. Things cannot be that dire on the streets of Australia that people need to look to her for advice. So, Beck has some issues with Scott for allegedly sharing with the Daily Mail something Danny had told him about her punching holes in their apartment walls. Ugh, these people. Like Beck, I'm also a fan of emeralds, and they do need protection, although all of mine are costume jewellery. So, I hope that this is a lie, or that she at least took her rings off before battering the walls. We then learn that part of the delay wasn't just due to Gia. Danny has just landed and is on his way to the studio. I feel nothing but sympathy for the people working on this after show. It sounds like herding cats. I don't envy their job. I do feel very bad for Beck because she is freaking out at having to see Danny. They could have done a better job at warning her about this. She has to step out because this is all just too overwhelming for her. We then get to see a montage of all the content creator posts about the season, and I now have a goal for next year. I want to be included in this with a post about how much I fucking hate one of the grooms and how he'll never know peace. I'm sure they'll give me someone new to hate as much as Tyson next year. I will say that I have really been missing out by not watching the after show. It's just a constant mess. It's giving Jerry Springer. Was the perfect way to catch me up on all of the post-season drama. They show us clips from them talking shit about each other to different media outlets. I mean, some of it I didn't need to know, like Danny starting a dildo line that is a clone of his junk. Disgusting. Suffice to say, Joel and Juliet still hate each other, as do Beck and Gia, and things have gone really downhill for them since she attended Gia's birthday party in January. And this party sounds like hell. Luke was throwing food, and Gia and her new man were borderline shagging on the table. Can't we all just go to Nando's and have a nice time? These people. The last straw for Beck with Gia was when she found out that she was trying to stir up drama between her and Luke. And my one takeaway from hearing all of this is that Luke is a lot more active post-show than he ever was when we saw him. Okay, let's dive fully into Beck and Danny because they're the nucleus of all the biggest drama. So Danny has started rumours about Beck being a drunk and acting like a diva to production when her drunk friends were causing issues. Once Danny shows up, he is once again a baby-backed bitch and refuses to join the rest of the group. He'll only talk one-on-one. Sir, get over yourself. This isn't the Oprah interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. When we finally see him, he's spewing more bollocks about how it's hard for him to share his feelings and that his family are ashamed of him because of his unseen clip from the reunion dinner party where we see him calling Steph a skank. Yeah, he doesn't feel bad about his actions. He just doesn't like getting called out. We have seen a repeated pattern of him being disrespectful towards women. He then tries to pull a Lisa Vanderpump and say that it's just British humour. Nobody from any country is looking to you for laughs, Danny. His punchline was that Beck is not a 15 out of 10, and instead of reflecting on any of the shit he's talked about her, he's deflecting everything right back onto Beck with his Wonder Woman bracelets. Beck is watching backstage and has had enough, so she has to come out and confront him. This is just Jeremy Kyle. I need them to start bringing out lie detector tests. This man just can't own any of his behaviour. He didn't reach out to Beck to give her an apology for any of those unseen comments that aired. He's even trying to bend how him saying that they could have found him a better wife in a supermarket was a compliment because there's some amazing women in Coles. I swear that supermarket better not give him a brand partnership. He does try to apologise, but then pushes the blame onto growing up in London boxing clubs. Oh, I really hope he doesn't try to write a book about his fictional backstory, and I just can't listen to this man anymore. He says that this is the last time he'll ever be seen on a TV screen, and that better be true, because if he shows up on any more reality shows, I will not be watching. So that wraps up season 13 of MAFS Australia. Oh, I've really enjoyed these 10 weeks. I'll be releasing an episode next Friday covering my first time watching Beverly Hills 90210 season 1. And I'm just having fun the next couple of weeks and covering some nostalgic deep dives I've had in the works for a while before I start to tackle Love Island UK and USA. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked what you heard here, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify or YouTube, and consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps new people find it. You can also find me on Instagram at PopMonsterPod, and please DM me if you have any ideas for things you'd like me to cover in future episodes. Again, thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.